when you have the right strategy, right plan, and right consistency. And, we can go into more detail if you'd like, but when I have a whole talk I do on the difference between eating healthy and eating to look good.
Don't just hire a random person. There's a lot of people that talk the talk, but as you said, you walk the walk. You got to fit the part, right?
80% psychology, 20%, mechanics, right? You can't just be in your room and, think I'm fit and I'm healthy, right? You got to go and lift some weights. You got to sweat. You got to make different food choices.
What's up, everybody? Today, I have a great guest on the podcast, The Ideal Hour. His name is Russ Yeager. He is a body transformation coach, a mindset coach, very popular on Instagram, has a great ebook out, Live Longer, Feel Better, Look Great Naked. We're going to talk about that as well. And I'm just excited to have him on. He got introduced to me by a friend, Elliot, who is a friend of David Meltzer. And Russ wanted to come on the podcast, and I really would love to have his opinion on what this all means, including what's in his ebook and why a body transformation is necessary in 2024. Russ, thanks for coming on.
Great to be here, brother. Good to see you, man.
Thank you. All right, so let's get right into it. It's 2024. The gym memberships are probably raking in a storm load of money this month, right? Why should someone have a good fitness mentality coming into the new year, and how do they maintain that throughout the year?
Yeah, I think the second part is the most important, is how do they maintain it, right? Because New Year's resolutions come around, and you don't know the exact statistics, but it's like, 80% plus of people their main, goal has something to do, or resolution has something to do with their health and their body, right? So the gyms get super crowded for the first 2 weeks. And then again, I don't know the exact date, January 18th or 23rd or something, about 3.5 weeks in, there's literally a national resolution day where people have, the majority of people have given up, dropped off. And you see it in the gyms. I mean, they're packed right now. It'll slowly fade by February. It'll be back to normal. And so what I do is help people, realize, number one, I look at a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, busy people. Two biggest excuses I hear why they don't, not going to work out, especially for busy, successful people, is, money a little bit, not so much that I'm not willing to invest in a coach, or I'm not willing to invest in the healthy food, but I'm not willing to take away from my business because I'm making money, and then time. Mm-hmm. But what I help them realize, ask the question, if you had in your business, a piece of equipment, $1 billion piece of equipment, responsible for, running the company, most important piece of equipment in the company, would you run it 24/7, redline it, never do maintenance on it and hope and pray it doesn't break down? And of course the answer is no. But I believe as a business owner, you are your company's most important asset. And so take out that you're going to feel better, take out that you're giving yourself the chance to live a long time, and be healthy and actually enjoy life. Take out the chance that you can be a better husband, a better father when you show up with energy for your wife, your kids, your husband. You actually, and there's studies that prove this, you make more money when you feel good, when you're energetic, that magnetic attractiveness where people just want to do business with you.
Absolutely. I'll double down on that. I think when, not only me personally, but everybody I interview here, says that when they're working out, they're feeling like a lot better. They have their mindset right. They not only feel better, but I think they correlate to other employees better. They're a better energy ball all around the office, the workforce, et cetera, the meetings. And it leads to better productivity, creative thinking. For me, working out is essential. So what would you recommend for someone trying to get into working out? Like, how do they start? A lot of people say, hey, I don't have time, but that's really not the truth. So how do you get around that for someone that you coach?
The truth, we all have the same time. And again, you see people that are super busy that, are making time for it. I run 3 businesses, have 3 young kids, but what about the single mom that's, working 2 jobs, raising, 4 or 5 kids by herself, and she still finds time? So it comes back to, what Tony Robbins talks about, we all have shoulds. I should do this, I should do that. Shoulds don't get done. It has to become a must. So it has to become a decision and a commitment. And, for me, like I do what I do. I'm 49 years old today. I'm known as the fit dad with abs. I keep abs 365 days a year, run circles. And I say that not to brag, I say it for inspiration, because I grew up a chubby kid wearing the husky pants. I friggin' hated it. I wore the white t-shirt at the pool, had the spread of fat around my stomach. And I tried on my own, had some okay success, but never really got where I wanted to go. I was working as a CPA, working for one of the big firms, traveling, late nights business dinners, drinking and partying in my 20s. And finally, at 27 years old, so this is to answer your question. I said, enough's enough. You never really did it. And you never, let's get this part of your life taken care of. So I made a decision. And more importantly, I made a commitment. So that's where it starts. Make the decision, make the commitment. You're going to get this part of your life taken care of. And then the rest is details. And it's really not that complicated. You need to have a good plan, but it's not that complicated.
I love that. I think you have to, enough is enough, right? At a certain point, you have to say, this is what I'm doing. This is who I want to be. And I think that's the body transformation that you're discussing. You mentioned 6-pack abs, so you're totally killing the dad bod. and in there, how do you get a 6-pack and still eat pizza and ice cream? I mean, how do you do that, Russ?
Most people don't believe it. So, when I did the transformation contest, I was trained by one of the top, or he was the top natural bodybuilder in the world at the time. So I did the whole train in the morning for 2 hours weights, cardio at night for an hour, eat chicken and broccoli, 2 hours later, protein shake, 2 hours later, chicken and broccoli. Maybe you get green beans if you're lucky. And I lived that way a long time. And I trained my clients like that early on, and it works. But the problem was I noticed like my clients, they started going back. They focus for 3 months, transform and go back. And the reason is that's not a realistic or sustainable way for most people to live. And I lived that way a long time. It worked for me. But 10 years ago, I met my amazing wife, Emily. We have 3 young kids now. And for me now, it's more about, I want to live a long time. I want to be healthy, fit, energetic. I want to, maximize my health, be there for my business and my employees and my clients. But I still want to have the abs, and I like eating things like pizza, ice cream, and tacos. So I've been asking myself that question specifically the last 10 years, can you have it all? And the answer is yes, when you have the right strategy, right plan, and right consistency. And, we can go into more detail if you'd like, but when I have a whole talk I do on the difference between eating healthy and eating to look good. Eating healthy is micronutrition, getting your vitamins, your phytonutrients, antioxidants, staying away from too much processed food, sugar, all that kind of stuff. Eating to look good, if you understand how to get your calories right and your macronutrients, which is just the 3 types of calories, carbohydrates, protein, and fat, you could literally eat all junk food and be shredded. And I'm not recommending that, but that is that's how you can do it. So my philosophy for myself and my clients is, 75, 80% of the time, eat the healthy, nutritious foods. 20 to 25% eat whatever you want without labeling it good or bad. That messes with our relationship with food. And plus, if you can't have it, you want it more. One of the most freeing things I ever did for myself, Simon, was I can eat whatever I want. And once I said that, it doesn't mean I go eat a bunch of junk food all the time, but it relieves that pressure. I'd have that healthy relationship with food. And with that model of, that 80-20, so to speak, it's a way you can look great, feel great, be healthy, and still enjoy real fun foods. And it's sustainable for the rest of your life.
Thanks for sharing that, Russ. It's, I think having kids also, when you have children and you're going to all these birthday parties and you're always hanging out, there's going to be pizza and chicken wings, and then you're at a Super Bowl party. They're not going to have, snap peas for you in most cases, right? So definitely a balance there. And I think I've met a lot of people that are so strict to that one diet, but I've never met an individual that can maintain the chicken and like string beans diet for over 6 months or whatever it is. And I've had business partners, coworkers that are like, I'm on this new diet, I'm going to do this. And they're like making this little prep meal, but it just 3 months later, like you said, they're back to, this is difficult, right? It's not sustainable. And I think it's moderation. You could eat that stuff, but you got to work it out. And sugar, I think, also is what I personally try to stay away from. Now, I've put up a couple photos on Instagram. I did have a shredded 4.5-pack, maybe a 3-pack. I don't know, but
Let's go, man.
Yeah, it's not bad. But compared to my age and a lot of the dads I know, it's, I don't see that often. The dad bod was like a thing. Let's talk about, how do you balance? You mentioned 3 businesses. How do you balance your life, your work-life balance there with 3 kids, being married for 10 years, keeping a happy wife, and running several businesses? I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah, I could grab my wife and see, she can tell you if she's happy. It's standards, and I'm not going to say it's easy, right? I believe anybody who says I have the perfect balance of life, yeah. I think they're probably full of crap, but I think it's striving for the right balance for you at the right season. Again, I have my non-negotiables, like my health is a non-negotiable. It's not, if I feel like working out, am I going to do it? It's just what I do. And because when I've got my health, again, that's going to translate into my relationship with my wife, with my kids, my business, like we talked about earlier. For me, my relationship with God is a non-negotiable for me. And then it's just a standard. Like I work a lot. I love what I do. I'm blessed to be able to do something. I love transforming people's lives, changing their lives. But I also make I think I'm thankful, or I know I'm thankful for having kids a little older, because I think when you're younger, I wouldn't have thought this way. But like I travel some, but like if I'm at home, I'm seeing them every morning and every night. Like nice. I'm not gonna I may not be spending hours and hours with them every day. They probably don't want to do that anyway, but I'm making it a non-negotiable that I'm seeing them. I'm making it a non-negotiable, that my wife do trips, and that we do date nights. When we got married, we both love to travel, and we made it a commitment. We're going to do a trip, at least one trip, if not multiple, with just us every year. And we've kept like a good trip, and we've done that every year. 8 months old, and we went on a 10-day Greece cruise, where some parents are like, well, how could you leave your twins? Like, they're fine with grandma.
It's so important to maintain that structure of that loving relationship at home. I think a lot of parents, and I even see it on this podcast, they're so entrenched in the daily kids' life of school and birthday parties and this and that. They forget how to be lovers, and they forget how to show respect to one another, what date night even feels like, right? It's like, it's unheard of. And I think that's so healthy. Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad you guys do that. So you left the two twins, went on the cruise. The cruise, you had the time of your life, I would imagine.
Incredible. We've done some cool trips. That's if not my top, it's top 3 for sure.
Then let's talk about, you mentioned something, the second business every business owner should have. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it means real estate, or something with passive income. For me, I haven't found anything more reliable and consistent, than real estate. I mean, I got a bunch of emails today with direct deposits, a little under $6,000 that I did absolutely nothing for, that comes in every single month. And I like that. I talk about, building lean muscle, because the more muscle you have, the more fat you burn. It creates passive fat burning. And I love passive fat burning. I love passive income, and again, I lucky to have some really wise mentors in terms of, building wealth. And, what they've taught me is it's not how much money you make. There's people that are broke making $30,000 a year. There's people broke making, $300,000 a year. And there's people making $3 million a year that still end up using it all. That, you need to take a certain percentage, invest it into an asset that's going to grow over time, and, hopefully pay you some, dividends or passive cash flow along the way.
How did you get started in real estate? Was it through your mentors, or what got you started? And how could someone get started in real estate that has a day job or two and has a family? And how was your story in that? How did you get into that?
Yeah, it's funny. It just popped in my mind. So I'll tell you usually everything comes from childhood, right? My best friend, Jason Cernelia, his parents were the rich parents, the beach house and all the stuff. And I remember asking, what do they do? And he was like, well, they own this building and that. I was like, oh, so if you own buildings, you get rich. I made that correlation. I went into traditional like S&P 500 stocks and that. So I was lucky. My dad taught me, hey, invest, save your money. So I was thankful for that, which is nothing wrong with the stock market if you like that. But for me, I like the idea of real estate. It's tangible. It's something you can touch and feel. You get the tax benefits. And so I had for personal experience, I had a 2-bedroom, townhome, and my buddy asked if he could rent out the second bedroom, and he did, and it covered my rent. And I was like, that's pretty cool. I started doing some flips, just kind of trying to figure things out. And then for me, I realized, with my fitness business, that's what my superpower. Real estate was starting to distract me. So for me personally, I find people that are already really good at what they do, and I just do what I do, take my extra money, give it to them, so it's completely passive. That's one way. If you're making cash flow, if you want to get into real estate, I'm not the expert, but I mean, there's people that, can mentor you on how do you find your first duplex or fourplex, how do you do your first flip and wholesaling, and all that kind of stuff. Just like before, it's anything, it's making a decision. And what you focus on is what you get. So if I want to learn the real estate game, I'm going to go seek out mentors who can teach it to me. That's
a great point. So basically get the best in that profession to give you the best advice, so you don't learn from your mistakes, it sounds like what you're saying. I find real estate to be probably the most safest, securest, I wouldn't say the safest, most securest, but probably the most reliable way to build wealth. And as you mentioned, your best friend, Jason, I believe his name was, over the course of time, 10, 20, 30 years, that piece of property you bought today, 20 years later, is going to be much higher in value than than something that could potentially go down, such as a stock or a company or anything like that. All right. So you're no longer a CPA. Is that correct? Or you still do some CPA work as well? Is that your third job?
Technically am, although I just got an email the other day. I'm late on I do on my inactive status. I have to pay $75. I need to do that. So I keep it active just so I technically am a CPA, but I'm not practicing.
How did you like, I always admire those people. They sit behind that desk and you have a lot of energy, you're fit. That must have been tough for you to be a CPA with all this abundance of energy and things that you want to do. Would you say that's accurate? Or
yeah, nobody believes I'm a CPA. I mean, I was in audit, so I didn't do tax where I'm crunching numbers all day. I mean, I sat behind a desk some, but I was in manufacturing. So like some of my clients were Mercedes-Benz, so I got to like drive their M-Class refinery. So we're climbing up in the middle of the night doing inventory. So I had some interesting things, but it still wasn't, it wasn't what I was put on earth.
All right. And what sparked your passion to help people transform their bodies? I mean, you take care of yourself, you take care of your kids, you take care of your wife, you're on cruises. Why all of a sudden say, hey, this is what I want to do for other people?
Yeah, I mean, it was my own transformation. Like I said, when I made that transformation at 27, people were like, dude, what happened to you? Can you help me? And I was like, okay, I started getting more questions about health, nutrition than I did debits and credits. And I was like, this is what I was put on earth to do. I quit my job and that was, 18 years ago, never looked back.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what's the biggest misconception with body transformations or that people have about body transformations? Like, what are people most worried about maybe coming into hiring an individual such as yourself to help them out? And what do you find as a challenge to break the barrier for that individual? And I know it's probably different for other people, but what would you say that is?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, one is what I talked about, the busy business owner, entrepreneur. I don't have the time. I should do it, but I don't have the time. So making that connection between, making this a part of your business plan and how that's going to help give you financial and business success. For other people, it's believing in their coach. There's a lot of coaches out there. There's a lot of high carb, low carb, keto, don't eat after 6, eat every 2 hours, intermittent fasting, high reps, low rep, like it's confusing. Eat meat, don't eat meat. Vegetables are the greatest thing ever. So finding somebody that knows what they're doing, right, obviously has a proven track record, somebody you resonate with, having confidence in the coach. But I think even bigger, Simon, is people doubt themselves. Failed so many times, can do it. And that's one of my biggest jobs is letting them know, look, I promise you, like whatever happened in the past doesn't matter. You can make a new decision today and you can change your life today and get the benefit for the rest of your life once you master this one area of your life.
How do you break that mindset of that individual? I mean, for me, I'm curious about mindset and, it feels like someone took their soul or their own doubt took their soul with that transformation and they just don't believe it. How do you encourage someone or how do you break that mindset when someone's that challenged through their psychosis state, thinking that it's just impossible for them?
So I've actually partnered with a company, Crone Health, Chris Crone, and he has a proprietary process called Breakthrough that goes deep. It helps identify your biggest limiting beliefs. It's a simple process, but super effective, usually from childhood. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve it. You find out, when you establish that, you eliminate that limiting belief. I'm oversimplifying it just a little bit, but just for time's sake, it's that with a new empowering belief. Because as long as you're replaying that limiting belief, you're going to sabotage yourself. The other thing is just, again, believing in people. I have a client that started with me recently, 465 pounds, Valerie, lymphedema, could barely get out of her chair or bed. And I've worked with some 300-400 pound people, never taken on a client like this. And she's now down about 40 pounds, but she is sharing wins with our coaching group. We do calls every Wednesday. She was able to walk across her house and do laundry, which, sounds simple to, I don't know the last time she did that. And she told me, this is the first, she's tried everything. She didn't say these words, but I believe where people actually saw her, treated her like a human being and let her know we believe in you and we're going to do this together. And it started to create that belief in her. So I think it's, really just listening to people, understanding where they are, letting them know, it's okay where you've been. But, if this is something you really want to do, you've got to dig down deep and find your why. Why do you want to do it? Connecting that. And then believing in them and partnering together to do it together and work through all the obstacles. That's
incredible, Russ. You're basically saving her life and removing the shameful doubt. Someone may think that's shameful or whatever, but this individual definitely struggles with something. And just removing that, and you're improving that person's life, or even giving life back to them. It's such an important thing. Thanks for sharing that.
Definitely.
All right. What do you think the mind plays in a body transformation? Is it 100%, or is the physicality also a big part of it? Is the mind what's really driving the body transformation, or do you also need to be somewhat capable?
I think it's 80. I won't get 100%, but 80%. I think just like anything else, 80% psychology, 20%, mechanics, right? You can't just be in your room and, think I'm fit and I'm healthy, right? You got to go and lift some weights. You got to sweat. You got to make different food choices. But once you get once I teach my clients, how to work out, how to eat, yeah, you need to change your program out. Yeah, you'll probably hit a plateau and you may need to do a diet break, or, increase your cardio or decrease your cardio. But once you figure out the X's and O's, it's pretty simple. Like I always say, most of my job is encouraging people not to quit when they feel like quitting, because either things aren't happening as fast as they thought, they self-sabotage themselves, they had something that happened at work that got them off track, that kind of stuff. So it's the mind, getting people not to quit and to be consistent is the most important thing, which is definitely more mental than physical.
Have you had people that quit or wanted to quit? I mean, both scenarios where they did quit and you were like, man, I just haven't been able to reach or breach through this individual. And then individuals that wanted to quit, and what did you do to not allow them to, or get them to think differently? Because a lot of people quit, and a lot of things, right? It's not just body transformations. They're either fed up or don't believe in themselves. What do you do in those scenarios?
For sure. I mean, I've had people quit, before they start. I think of one day I had a guy that, was getting ready to start with me, and he literally broke his pinky toe and said, nah, I gotta put it off. And guess what? That was 3 years ago. He never started. Same day, I had a guy start with me that was in a wheelchair. Can I do, coach? Show me what I can do. So that's not a physical difference. That's a mindset difference. And then my biggest goal, to your point, is when somebody works with me, I love when people get results. If they want to go fast, I'll go fast. I mean, we participate in these 6-week challenges. You'd be blown away on the, transformations people make. But more important than fast is I want everybody to get to that point where, like I said earlier, with me, it's just what you do. And I can tell when people get to that point where it's no longer they're having to force it, and they necessarily need me to hold them accountable, but it's just who they are and what they do. It's their new identity. So if I can get somebody to that point, whether they keep coaching with me or not, then I know they're going to keep it for the rest of their life.
So there's a point in where you feel this individual has created a new identity. They are now the fit individual, not the individual that can't walk across the room.
100%.
That's incredible. That's awesome, man. All right. And then talk a little bit about how do you go to market? Let's say there's fitness coaches out there, and I have not a big following, but a few fitness coach followers. What do you do to differentiate yourself as a fitness coach? As you mentioned, there's like a guy that's like, hey, keto's the way to go. Eat red meat. Don't eat red meat. There's only, like, you could be scrolling Instagram, and in one post, someone's telling you that you shouldn't eat carbs, and the next post saying carbs are healthy. And it's like so confusing, right?
Yeah.
And how do you market yourself or differentiate yourself from these other thousands of fitness coaches and body transformation coaches?
So what I've learned is, instead of trying to figure out what you want to say and what camp you want to be in, is I just talk about what I do, how I do it, because that's authentic. And then people who resonate with that, they're naturally attracted to me, and like, hey, I like this guy that, he's 49. He's not, in his 20s, he's a normal dude. He used to be chubby. He likes to eat pizza and ice cream, but he's fit, and he's healthy. He's positive. And that becomes my client. Somebody who's, wants to be hardcore keto, or hardcore, drill sergeant like that. They're going to be repelled by me, and that's okay. In terms of marketing, I'm definitely not a social media expert, although I've been focused on social, and I've hired a company now to help me with my social. So we're growing that. And again, I'm just being myself, being totally open and honest. I'll have do videos, eating pizza, whatever. But then in the real world, I'm big on networking. I go to a lot of events. I'll acquire, multiple clients, and sometimes some, high paying private clients. Typically in that environment, that's who I'm attracting. And I'm not going around advertising or going with the intention, but my point is I am who I am. I walk the walk, I walk the walk. And, I always say, don't go to the dentist with rotten teeth. I'm not for everybody as a fitness coach, but, in my opinion, go with somebody, emulate somebody, get a coach who is what you want to be. And they act and they have the life you want. As Ed Milet says, you're most qualified to help the person you used to be.
And you overcame the challenge of needing fitness yourself. So not only did you transform your own body, but at 49 years old, you look fit, you got the six pack. And I think that's important. I think when you hire someone, right, or even in any aspect of business, you don't just hire a random person. There's a lot of people that talk the talk, but as you said, you walk the walk. You got to fit the part, right? And I think if someone's going out there and looking to hire a coach, they should interview a few and then really get to know their personality. But at the same time, make sure that individual does what they say as well. It's easy to give orders, but this isn't a coach on the football field. In some instances, your body has to look the part that you want maybe someone else's body to look like. I look at, the Kansas City Chiefs coach, I forgot his name, but he's a big dude, right? But, you can't be a huge dude and going, hey, do 10 more push-ups. You know what I mean? No one's going to take you seriously.
And you don't have to be shredded with a six pack, but like if you're, again, knowing what to do is the easy part, but do you have the discipline to actually do it yourself? And I think that's important, that you need to lead by example by showing you have the discipline to actually do what you preach.
I agree completely. All right. So you mentioned you have other businesses. How do you maintain a healthy workforce? Do you have employees that also work with you? You mentioned you hired a company. How do you maintain a healthy workforce as well with your energy? There's a company, obviously, this company, Rogue Fitness. I've seen them blow up. And then I was like, why is Rogue Fitness, for example, blowing up so fast? Why are they climbing the charts? Incredible manufacturing. They hire fit people, and then when they hire fit people, they are able to get that energy of people that just want to go and make sales and want to make the company grow and so forth, versus hiring. And I've hired employees that are kind of low end, low key, low energy, and honestly, low energy gets low results in my opinion. It's nothing against the personality, but that's what it is. Do you have that same vision when you work with someone? You want that same high energy, high output?
1,000,000%. We're hiring right now, and I'm doing, we do an initial, 15-minute phone screen, and my general manager does those, my team leader, and then I do them too. And I'm literally, maybe I judge too soon, but 5 seconds, man, I'm either girl's at least getting a second interview within 5 seconds, man. She just, boom, she had that energy. And then if somebody, unfortunately, most of the people, you think they're coming in low energy. I'm like, man, you better knock my socks off the next 10 minutes or you're out.
I agree. Same thing. It's funny, within the first several seconds, they don't captivate you. And that's how important brand identity is, or personal brand identity. It's just why would I listen to you for the rest of this 10 minutes? You're just out here. And I've had an interview recently where I didn't even decide to launch this interview, but this guy was yawning. He was tired. And I'm like, dude, I'm giving an hour of my day. You're giving an hour of your day or so. Put something out there that people are going to want to hear or want to listen to. And, but I'm the same. If I don't feel the energy in the beginning in the interview, I tend to push that individual to they look like they just woke up category. And I don't think that's a successful recipe. All right. Have you had any famous people or anybody of success stories that you want to share with your body transformations?
A lot of success stories. Famous people. Nobody like mega famous. I don't work with celebrities or anything. Sure. But I work with the top real estate agent in South Dakota, Casey, and he won a 6-week shed challenge we did last year. Got, just went from dad bod to like 6-pack. He did it super fast, like I was saying, which is cool. But then, the main thing is that he's continued that on. I mean, I could go on. I mean, Ralph is a 60-year-old guy who came to me as a professional roper. And he just, man, I got to keep up with the younger guys. I need to be functionally fit. I need to be healthy. I don't really have any like body transformation goals. Well, in 6 months, he now has a 6-pack at 60, and he's not too disappointed, with the physical changes. Sarah came to us after, challenge, trying everything, struggling. And I mean, again, you guys can't see the pictures on the podcast, but you can go to my site and see them, russyeager.com. And I mean, she's just like, completely changed her body and her health. I mentioned Valerie. I got another guy started 435 pounds, Sam. He's down, almost 100 pounds. There's countless stories, man. It's just fun.
What is the 6-week shredded challenge? Give me this. Is this like Hell Week Navy SEAL stuff, or what are we talking about?
Yeah. So there's a company I partner with, Prestige Labs. They're a supplement company, and they'll put on these shred challenges a couple of times a year. And we participate in them, if my clients want to. And it's, it's 6 weeks. So it's a short, I did a 12-week transformation challenge. Trained like a bodybuilder. I was that super strict. So this is 6 weeks. So like, you don't have a lot of time to mess around. So, what I'm working with people typically, and they want to lose fat, transform their bodies, I'll get them in a, slight calorie deficit, 200 to 600 calories, so that it's enough to burn fat consistently. So you're not too tired. You're not hangry. You don't risk losing muscle. If I never do anything crazy, like, where you're going to lose muscle and just feel like crap and it's risky, but I'll drop that calorie deficit way more aggressive, keep their protein super high to build muscle. And then they're hitting the weights, about the same as they would before, intensely, 3 to 6 times a week, depending on how many times they can commit. And they're doing cardio, pretty much every day. So just a massive calorie deficit. You're dropping a ton of fat quickly. You're being super disciplined with your food, and you're able to at least maintain, if not build muscle. So you shred all that fat off. It can come off quick. You're surprised how different people.
And do they tend to, in this 6-week challenge, you don't have to work out every day. It's what you're capable of working out. Is there like a time frame you want them to work out? Like 5 hours total in a week, or?
Yeah, dude, I tell people they need to do 2 types of exercise. One, something they enjoy, so they'll do it. And number 2 is the strength training. We talked about that. It's the only thing that's going to build lean muscle, build that strength, your bones, your ligaments, your joints, but also it increases your metabolism, creates that passive fat burning. Also super good for your health. The more and more research that comes out on strength training, but I say how many, so I need a minimum 3 times a week. Up to 6, you need at least 1 rest day. And then I say 6 isn't necessarily better than 3. And intensity is more important. So like I work out 3 to 4 days a week with weights. I used to do 5 or 6. And, I felt good then. I look good then. I feel better now, because strength training is great for you, but it taxes your neuromuscular system. So the more you train, the more your sleep, your recovery, your supplementation comes into play. And also you have more time to recover. So, 3, 4, 5 times a week is plenty, as long as you're being consistent. And again, it's hitting your nutrition is what's going to make the massive, fast body changes.
What, a lot of people come to you, they probably want to shred fat. They want to shred their body. They want to, obviously they're probably eating processed foods, as you mentioned, which is making them gain weight. I mean, people that travel to Europe, I've seen they come back, they're skinnier, and they ate a lot more. So America has this problem with all these synthetic things they add. But what about for an individual? I have a friend. This guy works out 5-6 days a week. He goes on YouTube. He does these plans. He's done the Athlean X plan. He's done every plan out there you could name. But he's 6'4". He's skinny. He's about 55 years old. And every time I see him, I'm like, Joe, you don't, you're not looking like you work out 6 days a week. Is it because he's looking too skinny? Is it because he needs to take his calorie count? Like, have you had those type of individuals that say, hey, I'm doing something, but I don't feel shredded. I don't look like I'm bulking, or, I'm basically working out and I'm not at my peak where I should be, given the amount of time I put into it.
Okay, I'm guessing a little bit, right? Because I haven't, met with him or anything, but it could be a couple of things. Genetics are real, right? We can't. So he's a hard gainer. Right. I'm a hard gainer, but I can also gain a lot of fat. Right. You've got the 3 body types, mesomorph, endomorph, and ectomorph. Ectomorph is, stays leaner, but hard to put on muscle, a hard gainer, and endomorph is, puts on muscle really easy, but also fat. And a mesomorph is the perfect combination. These are the people we all admire that can stay lean and put on muscle, right, naturally. So genetics are real. You can't change genetics, but I tell people you can maximize what you have. So he's probably a hard gainer. And so my question would be, has he improved significantly? Maybe he doesn't look amazing, but if he's improved, then he's maximized his genetics. If he's not getting the results, then it's probably the types of workout he's doing. A lot of people do these high intensity HIIT workouts. Makes you fit, it burns calories, but man, old school bodybuilding, lifting heavy, intense weight, that's what's going to transform your body, give you that muscle. And then also most people don't get enough protein, to support that lean muscle. I don't know about his rest, recovery, supplementation. And if he's doing 6 days a week, especially if he's doing lots of high intensity, he may be, breaking his body down so much, his muscles down, he's not giving it time to recover.
And for someone like me, not tall, I'm like with 5'9", a buck 50, would you recommend if I want to bulk up? I would. I've naturally been skinny, not like super skinny, but you recommend heavier weights and maybe less HIIT exercises, so to speak?
For sure, in terms of less HIIT and doing more of like a traditional bodybuilding to bulk up, but when heavier weights, not necessarily. More. That's another big question. Should I do lower rate, higher weights and lower reps, or lower weight and higher reps? They're all good. Working through like a 4 to 6 rep range. Heavy. The thing is, most people do the lighter reps. They do the 8 to 12s, kind of that sweet spot traditionally. People will do that, or they'll do 15 to 20, 20 to 25. Which you can build muscle. I've always been taught, my mentors were like 4 to 6. Heavy, dense weight is what builds muscle, and that's true. But I've also learned it's important to switch it up because your body gets used to it. I started this year doing like 25 to 30 reps during certain phases, and man, that works in it. Your muscles in a different way, works the muscle fibers differently. So not necessarily heavier weight, but working in that bodybuilding style, switching the rep ranges, and then working intensely. Most people don't work hard enough to build muscle. I remember Skip, LaCour, my mentor, is like, if you're doing 10 reps, which rep do you think builds the most muscle? And I thought I was smart. I was like, the 10th. He's like, wrong, the 12th. You have to building muscle, you have to actually create a stress big enough to break that muscle fiber down so that with proper nutrition and rest recovery, it grows back bigger and stronger. Most people get nowhere near to working hard enough to build muscle. So
it sounds like you really want to break that muscle memory cycle. Don't just constantly do 4 to 6 for the whole week. Maybe 2 of those days hit 12, 15 reps on a lighter weight and just completely mix it up. Would that make sense?
It gets a little more complicated. It's, that you get into like your mesocycles and your mini cycles. So there's in your periodization. So there's one, the traditional way to do it would say, hey, I'm going to do 4 to 6 reps for 4 to 8 weeks. Then I'm going to move to 8, 12 reps for another 4 to 8 and 12 to 15. There are different programs, where you can say, hey, I'm doing heavyweight, this week, lightweight next week, switching back and forth. I really like that. And then you can get really complex where you do what you're talking about and you're having, different rep ranges within, different workouts during the week. The biggest thing I would say on that is to have an intentional plan or get a coach to make an intentional plan, because if it's just random, again, that's the other thing. A lot of these random workouts, it's better than nothing, but random input equals random output. So I'm really big on, without being too anal about it, like tracking, my weights and progressing every single week.
What are some of the apps you use to track, or do you use any apps? Is it more on the whiteboard?
Yeah, so I'm old school. I use my phone. I use notes in the phone. I think I switched from a notebook. I know a lot of the MyFitnessPal is a pretty good app. We're actually working on my Body Transformation University, which is my online platform. We're working to customize that, turning that into an app this year. But apps are cool. I like all the tools and stuff, but notes on your phone, notebook works well.
You gotta fly out here one day and beat me up. We'll put a YouTube out of you just killing me and making me do all these reps. We'll do that. All right, let's talk a little bit more. Actually, this is a very good question. I've kind of been holding it back and it keeps popping up. Leg day. How important are mixing in either a full dedicated leg day or including legs in every single workout? What do you recommend? Because I've seen on Instagram some great, like Paul Schuyler, I think is Schuyler Fit, one guy that's on there. But constantly his workouts are legs, including arms and so forth. How important is leg day, how would you attack legs? I mean, what's your theory on them?
Leg day every day sounds miserable to me, so I'm gonna veto. I'm gonna go against that one, even if science proves it's the best. But here's the deal: legs are half your body, right? You think about it, and again, it's not just the building the muscle, but it's that metabolism increase. So you think about it: if you're not working your legs, you're missing half of your opportunity. For whatever reason, your legs they're tough, or they're more intense, you're huffing and puffing. So I definitely should work them. I mean, I work my legs once or twice a week, just like every other body part. I've had to change. I had, early bone on bone arthritis. A lot of people don't know this. In my left hip, I had a full hip replacement 7 years ago. The right one is bone on bone. I'm looking at, stem cells and other natural stuff for that now, but I may have to have surgery on that one. So I've had to change. I still can push pretty hard, but I've had to change the way I do things. Like I used to love doing back squats, right? Traditional leg press. I can do that. It just doesn't feel right on my hips. So like front squats work. I figured out Bulgarian split squats work really well. Walking lunges work really well. So for me, I've had to adjust. And I think that's a good point. A lot of people will think, well, I've got an injury in my leg or my shoulder. I can't do upper body because my shoulder. I have a leg injury. No, you just need to. I haven't found any situation where I couldn't figure out, hey, because the mindset, what can I do? Let's figure out movements that actually work for you and what you got going on with your body. But yeah, legs are important.
So there's a solution for everything. You shouldn't limit yourself based on kind of letting your mind take over, thinking that, hey, just because my thumb hurts today doesn't mean I can't hold a dumbbell. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so forth. That's cool. Yeah, I tend to. I need more help on the leg days. I'm with you, man. Those are brutal days. But I hear stem cell injections are incredible. And, just even off the Joe Rogan podcast and some of the other podcasts out there, there's people that I've even known in jiu-jitsu. I do jiu-jitsu lately as my cardio workout for the past 3 years. And there's people that have been injured in that. And I think one individual flew out even to, I believe it's Mexico or somewhere else to do it because it's cheaper or legal. And their shoulder mobility has completely, it's like brand new, they said. So do you have any experience with that? Would you try it for yourself?
But I've got an appointment next week with the top guy in Atlanta, and so I'll follow up with you. I mean, I've heard the same things with shoulders, knees, hips is not as much researched, although this guy has done a lot of hips with success. So I mean, I'm literally like bone on bone. People see my, doctors see my X-ray, and I can see their eyes like, man, you got a hip of a 75-year-old, and it's just a genetic thing. And so if this gives me significant relief, I will be shouting to the world from the rooftop. 100%.
You know what? I'd love to do a follow-up podcast on that if you do decide to do it. I'm so curious about it. And I think a lot of people would be as well, especially in your space. Let's do it. Let's talk about your ebook, Live Longer, Feel Better, Look Great Naked. I personally haven't read it, I have to be honest. But I love the title, and I want to go a little bit into it from your mind. Like, why write the ebook, and what's great about it, and Look Great Naked? What's that about?
Yeah, so I wrote I'm a totally transparent guy. I was in why I wrote the book originally. I wrote the paperback copy, right? It was, 10 years ago now, the marketing company, and they said, you got to have a book. And they were like, okay, you can make it in a weekend. And they taught, how you record it out, have it transcribed, and they then it's your best business score. And it doesn't have to be an amazing book. You just got to get it done. Well, long story short, it took me like a year because I'm like, I'm not going to put out like just a half-assed book. So I wanted to put out a really good book. So I made it published. And again, it's about 10 years old. So, about a year and a half ago, I'm believing, always learning and getting better. I still have mentors. I still have health coaches, and I've changed my philosophy. The foundation's the same, but I've changed my philosophy on a lot of things that were in the original book. So I decided to update it, with my ebook, and, I kept the original. And then basically at the end of each chapter, I just said 2021 or 2022. I can't remember which year. I think it's 2021 updates. And we know what I've changed as I've gotten, a decade older, which I think probably has something to do with my philosophies and how I've changed. And the ebook is, the hard book is great, but ebook is obviously easy for people to get and get all over the world pretty easy.
In the ebook, I would assume that you discuss the body transformation process and kind of why someone should really take equity in their own body and really feel better? Is that what it's?
Yeah, I mean, I tell my story, in more detail, and I tell in my philosophy again, and it's pretty simple. Strength train consistently, right? Get the right amount of calories and protein to reach your goal, whether you're trying to lose body fat, a lot of body fat, whether you're trying to lose body fat, gain muscle, or whether you're trying to gain lean muscle, and then, do your cardio, that's one thing that's changed for me. I used to be a big HIIT guy, high intensity interval training. And it's efficient. The pros is efficient. It gets it done, quick, and you break a sweat. You feel like you're doing something because you're pushing yourself hard. Downside is if you do a lot of HIIT, it can make you tired and hungry, right? So if you're tired and it can take away from your strength training, which is counterproductive. And if you're hungry, if you burn 600 calories in a HIIT cardio, but you eat an extra 800, that's a bad trade-off. So I go into, my philosophy. I talk about sleep, talk about supplementation. And then again, anything new I'm learning, a lot of the recovery things, the older I get, I'm big on recovery. So like I do the cold showers, sauna, my supplementation regimen's pretty extensive. So I'm really interested. The more older I get, the more interested I am in what I can do to stay young.
I know, I'm kind of the same. Do you do like ice baths? A lot of people are getting into those. And I personally made one out of a chest freezer and sealed it with silicone, put a little temperature gauge in there so it kicks on when it needs to reach, say, 35 degrees or 40 degrees, whatever you set it to. I found it on YouTube. Obviously, people could YouTube it. But obviously, I unplug it when I jump in because it's a device. But do you do ice cold baths ever? Or?
So I don't have the bath. I just do the shower. Do 3-4 minute shower. I've been doing it for almost 3 years. You would think it would get easier. A lot of good benefits. I mean, obviously it wakes you up. It brings all the blood into your heart and your brain, and then just flushes that back out. It creates something called cold shock proteins, which are like really good for your body. And then I do the sauna every day. I read an amazing book, Life Force by Tony Robbins, and he's talking about all the latest and greatest technologies in the health. He interviews all these health and fitness doctors and all the top people, and he references 3 major studies that show indicatively that 4 times a week for 20 minutes in the sauna reduces your risk of heart attacks and all heart disease by 50%, over 60%. When I read that, I was like, I made that a non-negotiable. I sit in the sauna 4 times a week for 20 minutes. And that's something that even if you're not working out, you'll get a significant benefit just by sitting in the sauna. So I'm big on that stuff. Yeah.
Do you have a infrared sauna or do you do traditional?
Traditional. The study, and from my understanding, is infrared. There's additional benefits to infrared sauna, but you can get the benefits that I just described in either a traditional or infrared.
When you do the sauna, is it at home or do you go to the gym or?
One at my gym, yeah. I don't have a home one yet. I don't have the whole setup in the backyard. It'll probably come. My gym's got what I need.
During 2020, this gym craze became so big. I personally had a gym as well, like a workout gym. But then after adding all these things, I realized that, hey, you don't need all this equipment, right? It's like overkill for a home garage gym. What essentials do you think someone may want to have in their garage gym, or someone looking to work out at home, let's say?
Yeah, it's funny, man. I think it's first knowing if you want to work out at home or at the gym. Like for me, I love going to the gym. I like the big gym. I like all the equipment. It's just, I don't really talk to people that much, but I don't know. I just like that atmosphere. Sauna, cool. My wife, there's a little room behind me. That's her home gym, and she's got, and she's kind of over time added on and on. Now she's got a Peloton, but now she's gotten more into weights, more and more fit. So she's got a nice rack of dumbbells. She's got some different stuff. She does the videos. So I think knowing whether you want to train at home or at the gym, if you're going to train at the gym all the time like me, I don't need any home equipment. If you're going to train at home, again, I tell people start with where you are. Like when I work with people, you can literally have zero equipment and we can do body weight stuff. We can work with that. But getting, then it's like, if you want to deck out the full gym, cool. I have, clients that have that, but just, starting with some simple bands, dumbbells, and a bench is, a pretty low investment, not a lot of room, and you can go a long way.
For your clients, Russ, do you recommend they work out in the morning, or it's like, do you work out in the morning personally, or do you recommend any time of the day when there is time?
Yeah, man, it's a good question. I used to always say the best time to work out is when you'll do it consistently. And I still believe that, although and I used to work out, and when I was working in the workforce, I would work out either before work or after work. I liked after because I used to not be a morning person, and I have the ability, the flexibility to work out in the middle of the day. So I was doing that. I love that, work, get my kids up, work, get an awesome workout and come back. But I realized it's taking, 3 hours, travel time, eating and all that, sauna, stretching. And so I just sucked it up about 2 years ago and started getting up at 5, going as soon as the gym opens. And even though I don't love when the alarm goes off, I love being done by 7 o'clock. I'm done for the day. It starts my day. And so the reason I like the mornings is nothing can get in your way. Get sick, you got to work late, you talk yourself out of it, your buddy asks you to go have a beer, right? And so I'm a big fan of the mornings. Yeah,
got to pick up, run errands, do this. It's just too many distractions that can occur during that time. I like the morning too. I feel when I personally work out in the morning, the days are just better. I don't know, it just feels like one of those big check offs on the checklist. All right, let's as we get to close, it's been a great podcast. Thank you for your time, of course. As we kind of close out, are you going to plan on putting out any other books out there now that you've mastered the writing, so to speak, within that year? And
I've been told I'm a pretty good writer. I don't spend a lot of time writing. I'm focused more now on video content, growing my social, so doing a lot of video. It won't be this year. I won't say I'll never write another book. I probably will. But for this year, I've learned, from my mentors to try to not do too many things at once. So this year is all about, getting this app done and then, growing my team, getting the right people. I have an amazing team, but continuing to add to that with the right people. And then really mastering webinars. That's something I started doing and realizing that I can talk to, 10, 100, 1,000 people all at once and share my message and my story is pretty cool. And doing more podcasts like this. So I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. What does a healthy, fulfilling life look to you? You're 49 years old, kind of that middle age, but you're a great 49, in shape. I mean, you probably could outlast a bunch of 30-year-olds that are not. And the reason I say that is because in jiu-jitsu, oftentimes I'm rolling with 25-year-olds and I tell them I'm 40. They're like, what? Are you 40? I'm like, yeah, it feels kind of prideful. But what's a healthy, fulfilling life look like to you? Or what advice would you give to someone younger that's listening?
That's a great question. I mean, I think it is putting your health if not first, is a high priority. And again, not that your life has to revolve around it, but just finding something you can do consistent, making a conscious effort, not being perfect. Again, I'm not the guy that tells you can't eat this, you can't eat carbs, but being intentional with your eating, being intentional with your exercise, you're going to get such a great benefit. Being intentional with your mental health, and I'm not a big meditation guy, but I do, I listen to podcasts, I listen to positive things every day. People are like, how are you so positive? It's intentional. I had an early mentor that taught me watching the news is sticking poison in your veins. And that made sense to me. And if you go through the day, but that's not enough. If you go through the day neutral, there's so much negativity coming at you, even if you're scrolling social, that's the news now. Right. And so I intentionally put those good seeds in. I think it's, realizing that, I love, success, ambition, making money, being able to do great things and have nice things. But realizing, the most important thing is being around people that make you happy, loving your family, appreciating your family, taking, living a long time, but enjoying the years. I just read a book. I'm telling everybody about it now. My buddy recommended it. Die with Zero. Let's put it in passive. Let's put it in all in real estate and what's the word I'm looking for? Be willing to put off the fun stuff, be wise and, build up and eventually have enough passive income to do whatever I want. Because that mentality, you don't want to be frivolous. That mentality, you're missing experiences and you need to spend some of your money now. Maybe you can climb Mount Kilimanjaro when you're 70, but that's going to be a different experience when you're 50. And so we like to travel, but we've already put some cool bucket list stuff on for this year.
Like a balance, right? Don't overspend, but enjoy some of it, yet plan for the future. It sounds like, someone else told me, they're like, hey, Simon, don't buy a Ferrari until one of your passive incomes pays for it. You know what I mean? you shouldn't dabble into something like this. Let's talk a little bit. I always ask someone, what advice would you give your young self? And I think, and this is going to be a couple part question here. Let's go back to when you were this kid that was out of shape, you mentioned earlier. What advice would you give to your young self? And the second part of that question is going to be, what advice would you give your kids to deal with bullying? Because I know kids that are out of shape and so forth are experiencing troubles nowadays with social media and so forth. And you have children, I have children. But let's go back. What advice would you give your young self? Let's say you could go back in time. You're 12 years old, 14 years old, whatever time period you want to pick. What do you tell yourself to keep yourself going?
That's such a great question. The social media, it's not a lot scares me. That scares me with my kids. We didn't have to deal with that. It's, it's a whole nother thing. I'll just see my younger self. I say, little buddy, like, you have no idea what you're capable of. I know that you feel unconfident now. I know you're not happy with your body. I know you feel awkward. I know you have the braces. I know you have the headgear. But I'm telling you, man, God puts you on earth for a special purpose, and just keep going. Stay around great people. Trust your parents. Find great mentors. Skip all the drinking and partying when you're young. I know it's fun. I know it feels good in the moment. But I'm telling you, man, when you're 40, you will have wished that you got serious about not only taking care of your body and your health, but figuring out your financial life. Because I'm telling you, if you do that when you're young, by the time you're 40, you'll never have to worry about money again, and you'll be light years ahead of where your daddy is.
Thank you for sharing that. And then as far as to the parents out there that may be watching, what advice as a body transformation coach would you give to a parent that is hoping to convey that type of message to their kid? But what advice would you give them, or how would you help them to convince their child, or even your own kids, that, hey, this is important?
Number one, you've got to lead by example. Do it yourself. You're not being selfish. You're not being selfish. So many parents think that I got to spend 100% of my time on my kids. No, your kids, I've learned, my kids don't listen to what my wife and I say, but they watch us and they emulate us. So we ain't doing it. I know we're not doing everything right, but I see my 7-year-old, 6-year-olds doing push-ups, doing sit-ups, jumping on the Peloton, asking daddy, when am I old enough to go to the gym? Asking about if is this food healthy or not. And they're not doing that because I'm talking to them about it. They're doing it because they see us living it.
I love that. So lead by example. And it sounds like that's what you've been doing. I truly appreciate you coming on, Russ. You've changed quite a few people's lives from what it sounds like already. And that's monumental. I think that takes a certain amount of character and good heart to do. I really look forward to your growth. I know it's a big industry, but you sound very genuine, and that's the most important part. Very excited to have you on. You're welcome back, especially after this stem cell thing. Let us know how that goes. I truly want to know, firsthand, is this a thing or is this a gimmick? And I hope that they do have a solution for your hip. Thanks for coming on. You are welcome back. And if you're ever in the Bay Area and you want to beat me up and put me through the paces, I'll take the challenge. I don't know if I could do the 6-week challenge, but we could start with maybe a 60-minute, and go from there. Thank you.
Great, Simon. I appreciate it. Yeah, I was working with Shay. I really wanted to get out there live, and I didn't have anything planned. I was excited to get with you, but let's do the next one live, and we'll talk about the stem cells and do some workouts.
Absolutely. And then if you're out here, we'll go to Napa, enjoy some, I don't know if you drink, but a nice glass of wine or whatever tickles your fancy, and you have a friend out here. So thank you for coming on the podcast. Guys, we will link Russ's information below, his Instagram, his website. Feel free to reach out to him. If you have any questions, I'm sure he will create some type of program for you. Very nice individual. I'm truly thankful for his time to come on, and hopefully you guys have learned something as I have as well. Thanks for watching the Ideal Hour podcast with Simon Katz and Russ Yeager. Check out all our other episodes, more to come, and thanks for your time.